In the summer of 79 AD, the Roman town of Pompeii baked under a calm blue sky, its citizens unaware that their mountain god was about to awaken. For days, tremors rattled the stone streets, but the people had grown used to them, just whispers of the earth beneath their sandals. At noon on August 24th, a thunderous roar tore through the air, and Vesuvius vomited a column of black ash that blotted out the sun. Ash began to rain down like snow, soft at first, then choking and heavy, bearing rooftops and streets beneath gray powder. In the Forum, a mother tried to cover her child with a cloak as the air thickened and daylight vanished into red twilight. Hours later, the first pyroclastic surge rolled down the mountain like a living beast. Hot gas and ash screaming at 450 miles per hour. The surge struck Pompeii without mercy, scorching lungs before a scream could leave the throat. Those who hid indoors were trapped as roofs collapsed and molten pumice poured through broken windows. In the city's bathhouse, steam turned deadly as boiling water exploded from marble pools, searing anyone nearby. One man clutched a scroll as he suffocated, his eyes wide, ash filling his mouth before he could drop it. Outside the gates, horses screamed and reared, their handlers blinded by falling embers. The second surge hit even harder, carrying molten rocks and vaporized glass, turning human bodies into casts of ash. The city fell silent beneath 20 feet of volcanic debris, streets, temples, and laughter entombed in stone dust. When the sun returned the next morning, Pompeii no longer existed, only a ghostly mound where life once thrived. Centuries later, diggers uncovered twisted forms, bodies preserved mid-embrace, their final terror immortalized in ash. Scientists found rings fused to bone, food left on tables, and dogs still chained where they had died waiting for their masters. Pompeii became a warning frozen in time, a story of beauty, arrogance, and how one breath can turn to dust. Beneath the calm shadow of every volcano, the ground remembers and waits. On August 26, 1883, the island of Krakatoa sat quietly between Java and Sumatra, its green cliffs hiding the fury that waited below. Villagers heard deep rumbles echoing through the sea caves, as if the ocean itself was growling. At dawn, the first explosion shattered the sky, sending black smoke and molten debris high above the clouds. By evening, the island was a storm of fire, ash raining down like burning snow, every breath tasting of sulfur and heat. Ships miles away felt the shock waves slam against their hulls like invisible fists. The eruption built through the night, each blast louder than thunder, until the air itself began to tear apart. On August 27, 4 final explosions ripped Krakatoa to pieces, the loudest sound ever recorded on Earth. The blast was heard over 3,000 miles away. Yet for those nearby, it was not sound, but silence that followed. Entire islands vanished under boiling seas as walls of water taller than palm trees raced outward in every direction. In the village of Telok Betong, a father tried to lift his child onto a rooftop before the wave devoured them both. The tsunami carried ships onto land and trees into the sea, mixing earth, fire, and water into one killing storm. Those who survived the first wave were blinded by falling ash that turned noon into night. The air filled with shards of pumice, slicing through skin as survivors gasped for breath. Hundreds of miles away, the sky glowed red for days, and ships at sea sailed beneath ash that looked like drifting smoke ghosts. When the sea calmed, Krakatoa was gone, blown apart, leaving only a ring of shattered rock and endless silence. Over 36,000 people had died, their villages erased so completely it was as if they never existed. Years later, a new island rose from the ruins, Anak Krakatoa, the child of Krakatoa, born from the ashes of its parents' rage. The world had witnessed creation through destruction, a reminder that even death can give birth to something unstoppable. In early June 1991, farmers near Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines noticed ash falling like dust from a dying sky. The mountain had slept for over 600 years, its peak covered in jungle and silence. But deep inside, magma was rising fast, pressure building like breath trapped beneath stone. On June 12th, Independence Day, the volcano began to roar. A celebration turned to horror. The first explosion sent black ash 10 miles high, blotting out the sun and painting the clouds red. Villagers fled with towels over their faces, coughing as ash piled up like snowdrifts. Roofs began to groan and collapse under the weight, burying entire families as they hid inside. Lightning cracked within the ash cloud, turning the sky into a storm of fire and darkness. The air grew toxic, sulfur and gas thick enough to burn the throat with every breath. Pyroclastic flows thundered down the mountain, swallowing entire villages in seconds. The U.S. Clark Air Base nearby was consumed by ash, its aircraft buried and its soldiers fleeing into a gray void. Then came the rain, Typhoon winds mixing with volcanic ash to create rivers of cement. Bridges buckled and trucks sank slowly into mud that hardened like stone within hours. The eruption sound circled the globe, echoing through the sky like the world itself was screaming. When the ash finally settled, Pinatubo's top was gone, its mountain heart blown open into a massive crater lake. More than 800 people had died, many never found, swallowed by earth that hardened above them. Scientists later said the eruption cooled the entire planet, dimming sunlight for years. But for those who lived beneath its shadow, the world had already gone cold the day Pinatubo awoke. In April 1815, sailors off the coast of Indonesia thought they heard cannon fire echoing across the sea. But it wasn't war. It was Mount Tambora clearing its throat after 1,000 years of silence. The mountain's roar shattered windows hundreds of miles away, shaking the night like a living beast. Within hours, ash rained down thick as wool, blotting out the moon until day and night became the same gray. Villages at the mountain's base vanished beneath rivers of molten rock that moved like crawling monsters. The air turned to poison, and lungs filled with heat instead of breath. Entire forests ignited at once, turning the night into a flickering field of burning skeleton trees. Survivors tried to flee by boat, but the sea itself boiled as ash and rock poured into it. The explosion was so loud it was heard nearly 2,000 miles away. By morning, 12,000 people were gone, and the mountain still wasn't done. The next day, the caldera collapsed, an entire mountaintop sinking into itself. The blast sent 100 cubic kilometers of ash into the sky, enough to dim the world's sun. Crops failed from Europe to America. Snow fell in June. People starved beneath red sunsets. They called it the year without a summer, when even sunlight felt sick and pale. In villages far from Tambora, no one even knew what had cursed the world. They only knew it wouldn't stop snowing. Thousands died without ever hearing the mountain's name, buried not in ash but in famine and cold. Tambora had taken their harvest, their warmth, their seasons, and left the planet shivering for years. And when the world finally thawed, the mountain still slept, quiet, patient, waiting for the next time humanity forgets. In the summer of 79 AD, the Roman city of Pompeii buzzed with laughter, trade, and wine, never suspecting the monster sleeping beside them. Mount Vesuvius stood tall and green, its slopes covered in vineyards and myths. But beneath that beauty, magma was stirring, ancient pressure building like a slow heartbeat of fire. On August 24th, the sky cracked open with a sound like the world tearing in half. Within minutes, a column of ash and rock climbed 15 miles high, turning daylight into shadow. The streets filled with confusion, children crying, merchants shouting, doves scattering like ghosts. Then came the rain of stones, small at first, then fist-sized, then heavier than skulls. Homes collapsed, temples shattered, and the city began to suffocate beneath a storm of ash. Those who fled toward the sea found it boiling, their ships caught in floating ash and falling fire. Others hid in cellars, hoping the gods would spare them, but air turned to poison and lungs filled with heat. In the final hours, a wall of fire and ash descended from the mountain faster than a man could run. Skin burned, bones charred, and time froze in a single scream that would echo for centuries. The entire city disappeared under 20 feet of ash, its people sealed like statues in stone. Centuries later, when diggers uncovered them, their shapes were still there, hands raised, eyes wide, trapped forever. Lovers found clutching each other, parents shielding children, every moment frozen in horror's embrace. The ash had stolen their breath, but kept their story, sculpted in silence for 2,000 years. To walk through Pompeii today is to see time mid-scream, each shadow a reminder of heat and fear. And as Vesuvius still sleeps above, no one knows if the next chapter has already begun.